Crazy Canoe, this is Enoch speaking.
Hi, Enoch. I just wanted to confirm tonight was Hawaiian shirt night.
Every night here is Hawaiian shirt night.
Awesome. Hey, while I got you, I saw an ad on Facebook. Half price apps tonight also.
The person who posted that no longer works here.
So that's a no.
Welcome in to the Bro 4 Squad podcast, where we're just a bunch of bros drinking beer and watching TV and movies. This is our review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, that was tough to say. Season 7, Episode 4, titled Out of the Past. I'm your host, the Mayor Jeff Hornacek. Joining me, as always, is the mad scientist Brian Banner to review this as we do all of our TV episodes on the 4 Bro 4 Squad criteria, which is the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and then any theories and questions we have going forward. And of course, shout out, as always, to our buddy Trend Pimp on YouTube, who helps us out with these. So, Banner, let's dive right into it. The acting and cast in this episode finally get a little bit of a 50s feel, because the last episode we were sort of stuck at the Helios base. But now we got a little bit more of Sousa, and of course the rest of the team had some interesting wrinkles added to their characters this season.
I'm just going to get it out of the fucking way. I hate to say it, but Deke was actually pretty good in this episode.
Yeah,
and that's back-to-back weeks that he's pretty good, and I don't like it, but we have to acknowledge it.
That's exactly what I wrote down. I wrote Jeffrey Ward as Deke, 2 straight good performances. I think when Deke, his problem, like we've said before, he's just been so inconsistent as a character. If you can give him something where I feel like, okay, we actually kind of know who he is because he's been so all over the place, then I can probably get invested in him. And that seems like what they've done so far this season.
I agree. I just hate that it's taking them 2.5 seasons to get us to that point.
That's fair.
That's really frustrated. But I need to give credit where credit is due. Jeffrey Ward did a really good job in this episode. And then again, anytime I get Chloe Bennett and what's-his-face that plays Sosa.
Enver Gochag, I think?
Yeah, they're fantastic together. Their chemistry on scene is perfect. They feed off of each other so well. You can tell they make each other better, which is really hard to do in a TV show as a new character is introduced like that. I know it's not a new character, but it's a weird dynamic. But those two make each other well, and I hope we get a lot more of them moving forward.
Kind of weird now that you mentioned it, but we really have not gotten much Chloe Bennett this season.
No, but what we've gotten has been fucking great.
It has been good because they've been focusing so much on the new dynamic with Coulson as an LMD, and then obviously, I mean, the framing device of this season is basically a character in and of itself. Like time jumping, is such a new element to where, like, if they don't even want to do anything with character layers, which they are, but they can just spend half the episode focusing on that. Joel Stauffer back as Enoch again. The plot thread of him being a chronicom so he doesn't age, he could pop up anywhere, is fucking genius.
It's brilliant. And absolutely brilliant.
I'm already laughing at some of the things they'll do with him that I haven't even seen yet. I don't even know what they are, but you know they're going to be hilarious.
The only thing I want him to wear like a fake, clearly it's a wig, but like an afro next week. Just Enoch wearing like a big old like brown afro.
Yeah.
I think that'd be
And he's
fun.
working the place. I can't wait to see because it was a speakeasy, obviously, during Prohibition. Now It becomes like a weird tiki-themed bar in the 50s. I can't wait to see what that place turns into each time we get to revisit it, like through different owners and stuff.
Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to say for acting. So Neil Bledsoe played an older Freddie Malik in this. And I just thought he was awesome. He really looked the part. He was super intimidating. I thought a lot better than the guy who played younger Freddy, who had a little trouble with the accent, and I don't know, it was kind of like not the strongest performance of the season. This guy, especially with we can talk about this in theories at the end, but I want more of this dude. The second he showed up, I was like, oh shit, okay, you're a villain.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I thought he did a really good job of picking up what they left in the 30s, the Malik they left in the 30s, picking up and building off of what he did. Which obviously I agree he's a much stronger actor, but just as what they gave him with the character, go, hey, look, this is what happened in the 30s. You had 20 years. You have built an empire within Shield now. Go. And he exuded all of those characteristics that you would expect out of a evil organization empire's leader.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad they had the ending that they had because I was worried it would kind of just be a one and done with him. Although you could, I guess, always age him up in the 70s if they needed to.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for cast?
No, I think that's all I had.
Okay, story and plot. I will read the synopsis from my TV Time app real quick for this episode. It was just another average morning on July 22nd, 1955, when Agent Phil Coulson realized the importance of that day in S.H.I.E.L.D. history. With a chip on his shoulder and a genre-bending glitch in his system, he set into motion a chain of events that would eventually preserve the timeline as we know it and ensure those pesky chronocoms get the ending they deserve. What could go wrong? So, Banner, what did you think of the story in this episode? I thought it was one of the stronger ones we've had so far this season.
Yes, I thought it was so cool how it was told, kind of through that inner monologue of Coulson, and obviously the entire thing being in black and white. They did a fantastic job of making it feel like a traditional old noir or 50s show, but yet it still was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And you still got that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. feel within that, the way it was framed and the way that the story was told. I don't know how they did it. I know I couldn't have done it, and I loved every minute of it. The fact that 90% of the episode was black and white, at first I was like, ooh, are they going to do this? And then about 10, 15 minutes in, I want the rest of the series to be in black and white and shot this way.
And I thought it was such a clever way to do it where at the end, I mean, of course, it plays perfectly, like you said, with the 50s noir vibe they were going with and sort of like the sleuth in Los Angeles thing. But at the end, when you realize that it's part of Coulson's reboot, like he might have just not been seeing color at that point. You know, and the inner monologue is like what we were hearing from his narration. So that is just insanely clever by the writers. This done poorly or not executed well would have been like cringeworthy.
That would have been, this is episode 4. That would have been 2 out of 4 episodes this season that I'm out on. And I would have been very reluctant to be positive the rest of the season. They have me 100% fully invested. They have continually gotten better as the season goes on, which really excites me knowing that it's a final season. Sosa becoming part of the team.
Yeah.
Dude.
I think we talked about this a little bit off pod, but again, the writing so clever in the way they did that. They did not mess with the timeline because for all intents and purposes, he's dead in 1955, like to the rest of the world. Everything still happened as it should, but now he gets to sort of be looped in with the S.H.I.E.L.D. team. I have a theory coming up based on his character that ties into the actor who played him. But I just think this was so awesome because he's a character that, like, this sort of thing with the time periods, when you meet a great character, like the Koenig, even though we've had a lot of versions of him, the Koenig in the 30s or Sousa in the 50s, you're like, man, I love this guy. I don't want to lose him when we time jump. And so I'm glad they found a way to keep him, at least for the time being, with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, the way that they were able to incorporate his story into this story and ultimately the end goal of eradicating the Chromicons and saving Earth essentially, but keeping him involved and keeping history intact was just so incredibly clever to be able to do that. I can't say any more on that.
And at the very end, we'll get into this too, but the Chronicoms, they kind of cheated here with the whole time traveling thing by leaving someone back in the 50s. That's not fair. So we're going to have to talk about the repercussions of that.
It's going to be interesting.
It's not fair.
But I at the same time, I kind of like it.
Anything else before we move on to best scene?
No, I think that's it. I just I will comment another thing. The score, absolutely phenomenal in this episode. Had a very, very good Hitchcock feel. Really, the whole episode, the way it was shot and everything, had a good Hitchcock feel for not being a thriller. But the score really reminded me of Hitchcock, which obviously was pretty prevalent back in the 50s. So I thought that was just another cool wrinkle that by steering into the skid of, look, we're in the 50s, we're going all in here. That's another way that I thought real subtle that they were able to do that.
Yeah, and that actually segues perfectly into best scene for me. So I think this, more than maybe most any episode we've reviewed for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., didn't have a standout scene, but had one of the stronger, like, complete narratives as an episode. Like, there's not really one scene that jumps out. I'm just like, damn, that whole thing was really cohesive. But
there are a lot of pieces in this episode that are just great, and they just continue to flow. Like, you could say it's this scene, but that scene starts 20 minutes in and it doesn't end until 45 minutes later. And everything in between was great too. So it's really hard when you have such a golden episode like this.
And I think one of the best examples of that is actually for me, for best scene, the very beginning of the episode. So the score starts off, Coulson is narrating. I'm like, oh shit, all right, we're getting like a Sin City type 50s style noir. The rain at that hotel, Susan's laying in the water face down, and then doing what Agent as S.H.I.E.L.D. does best, which was injecting that levity and that humor into serious moments and not making it feel disingenuous, is when it cuts directly then to Enoch working at the Crazy Canoe right from there.
It was genius. And that's one of those things that, like, let's say this was a movie and this is the sequel. As soon as Enoch came on screen, everybody's up going,
yeah,
all right, let's go.
Yeah, and that was like, they had me hook, line, and sinker for I mean, what do we always say? This is like Geiger's thing. The opening scene doesn't have to be the best scene, but it has to set a tone.
To set a tone. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, and in this episode, I think we might have had both with the opening 5 minutes there, because I was so ready to go. And I didn't know if the black and white was again going to fade out and just be sort of like a weird intro that they did, but it stuck around, and I ended up really enjoying it.
I agree, too. Enoch, this is more of an honorable mention, but just anytime we had Enoch on the switchboard going, I'll connect you, it was just like, as the episode went, like, he was like, oh, my friends are back, they want to talk to me and hang out. And then the more they were like, yeah, that's great, Enoch, but get me back to the Zephyr. And then by the end, he's just like, yeah, don't talk to me, just here's the Zephyr.
He hasn't talked to them in 20 years, but for them it's been like 4 hours.
Yeah, which is, it's just another kind of weird wrinkle in the whole thing that works. And you're really starting, for Enoch being personality-less, he has a lot of personality, and we're really getting to finally see it. It's just taken a long time to develop that. And I'm glad that they've been able to do so much with that character for us to get to this point. I know that has nothing to do with the scene, but
any scene Enoch is in is almost inherently a honorable mention for best scene.
The other scene I really wanted to talk about, and again, I hate that I'm saying this, but it's the two people that we mentioned in acting and cast. That scene with Deke and Malik, when he meets Malik again, and Malik all of a sudden realizes who it was, and he saw him 20 years in the past. That scene worked. It was really well written, really well acted. They gave Deke just enough for him to be dangerous, like sink or swim, man. Not we're gonna purposely make you bad or just have you this weird, like, kind of comic relief. They did it in a way that we got the best out of every single person in that scene. And I thought it was really, really cool, and just an interesting dynamic and an interesting wrinkle that I personally hadn't thought of. What if they run into somebody that they ran into in the 30s later on in history?
And I was wondering too if Deke even knew the rules, if he was allowed to tell him that. But at that point, I think he was just trying to save his life.
Right. I think whenever you've got a gun pointed at your face, you can kind of say whatever you want. I mean, all bets are off.
So that's what happens to me every time I'm in that situation. One thing I wanted to mention, I wish the scene was a little bit longer, but the fight in the bar cart on the train where Sousa sort of realizes he's being cornered and the S.H.I.E.L.D. team reveals themselves, that was really cool. And Mac threw in a fucking epic haymaker.
Yeah, he did.
Like, dude, he might have killed that guy. He hit him. I was watching, I was like, Jesus.
That's one of those things, like, most of the time when you're watching shows and movies and, like, they hit him and like, they kind of jump up and kind of go flying, you're like, okay, that was a little dramatized. That one wasn't. He fucked that dude up.
I just can imagine that guy, like when they acted, Henry Simmons actually punched him in the fucking face, and the guy's like, "Dude, I'm dead."
Yeah.
He's like, "We shouldn't have a glass jaw."
Yeah, that says more about you than it does me.
And then last thing I wanted to briefly mention, basically the whole last 5 minutes of the episode, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but when they explained why it was in black and white and Coulson's inner monologue and then bringing Sousa up to speed on the team, I mean, this thing was just bookended so strong because that had me equally as excited for the next episode as I was when this one started.
That's the thing. Like, I was not necessarily excited for this one to start at the end of episode 3. We knew something was going on with Coulson, but like, kind of whatever. It's going to be them trying to reboot or kind of a repercussion of him going offline. And it wasn't that at all. So once we kind of figured out where they were going, I was like, oh, I dig this. This is awesome. And then, like you said, the bookend of going, look, almost that bombshell or that twist of, hey, Sousa's not really dead. He's with us now. And him kind of coming to terms with the fact that he's dead, but he's not dead.
And now, like, the chances going forward, or the things they can do with him going forward, he can be just a totally new identity within S.H.I.E.L.D. if he wants.
He's literally whoever he wants to be now.
Which is cool. It's kind of like us when we go on a cruise. You know, we assume different identities for the whole week.
I'm Todd from New Hampshire.
Yeah, that one's getting a little played out. He's not as interesting as you think, I'll tell you that.
I mean, he's pretty interesting.
He's
an accountant for an accounting firm. Don't get much more interesting than that.
Super fun. All right, theories and questions. I'll let you go first. I got a couple here.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. Not really a whole lot of theories. I'm still, because they haven't disproven it, sticking to my guns here, and they're eventually going to connect us back to the movies. Somehow we're going to have them preventing Coulson from joining S.H.I.E.L.D. That's just inherently on the table until they prove me different. Questions. What the fuck? May has powers? Or does she? Like, what is this?
Yeah, so for one of my theories, I just said Melinda May's days are numbered. I don't think she makes it through the season. There's just too much shit going on with her. The Shrikes, I think there's some permanent damage there, and whether it's a sacrificial moment that she has or just whatever's going on with her ends up killing her, I just don't see May making it out of season 7 alive.
Do you see her all of a sudden jumping in front of a bullet or taking a bullet, or somehow she perishes saving LMD Coulson's life?
I could definitely see that.
I can see that too. Even with her touching Coulson and going, I feel nothing. Once she's, kind of realized these powers, now she knows Coulson isn't a person. So I can still see her somehow coming to the revelation or learning, like, I had true feelings for this person. Even though he's a robot, it's still him, and taking a bullet for him.
It is weird. I think she still has some form of, like, amnesia, because we haven't had, I know obviously, like, she's grappling with a whole slew of emotions based on who she's around, but we haven't had that moment where she looks at Coulson and kind of like recognizes that, okay, he looks exactly and acts exactly like the man you were in love with. Because it was a little different last season. She obviously had trouble seeing Sarge, but he wasn't Coulson. He acted so much different. But we haven't had that moment of her now where she's like, this is kind of messing with me. So whenever that does happen, I mean, it just might overwhelm her to the point where she does something really crazy.
I can definitely see that.
I have a theory that I know Trent Pimple know this, but I wasn't sure if you were aware. So the guy who plays Sousa, the actor Enver Jokash, he was in the Avengers.
Really?
He played the cop when the Chitauri first land, and Cap says, we need to set a perimeter back all the way to 39th Street. And
You're right.
So one guy says, call the National Guard. They don't know what's going on here. And Enver Jokash says, do we? And there's been a lot of talk that character is Sousa's grandson. So it's very possible.
I'll one up you. Could it just be Sousa?
We're working our way there, I guess, right?
I mean,
it's certainly a possibility now if he continues to time travel with them. So I think that they will tie his character into the movies, into that movie specifically somehow. And they even actually, Mac mentioned the Avengers to Coulson in this episode, which I thought was cool.
Which, again, that just helps my theory of they're eventually connecting us back to the movies and coming full circle from when we started. I don't know.
I just think it makes too much sense there to not do something with it.
And this is what we want. Like I want this to be, even though I'm fine with it not being part of the movies, I want this to be part of the movies. I mean, obviously the MCU is historic in its own right, but if they can just continue to build on that legacy and I was able to live it, like I want it even more.
And I think we're in a good spot where this show has its own legacy too. So it's not like making this feel meaningful in the last season is contingent or dependent on, well, can we successfully connect it to the movies? No, because to me, this show is always going to have its legacy of being a great show and really groundbreaking in a lot of ways. So if we can connect to the movies, that's just a huge added bonus.
It's just the cherry on top. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, what else you got?
Is Malik going to be a Chromicon? Malik's a Chromicon, right?
So he ages, which is the problem. What I'm thinking is
he aged from the 30s to the 50s. They
Correct.
left the Chromicon behind. What's stopping that Chromicon from just becoming Malik and stealing his face? And now we have a Chromicon at the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. rather than Hydra.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to guess. This is where the timeline gets tricky because, as we all know, Gideon Malik in the Avengers is like an old man. So has he already had the offspring that needs to lead to him? Because if that's the case, then, okay, sure, we can do that. But if not, like, I don't think Chromicons can father children with his genetics. So we got to figure that part out.
Yeah, I mean, historically, we know Chromicons don't like having sex, so that's inherently a problem.
Very true. You can just tell by the way they dress when they go out to nightclubs. They're really not trying to get laid.
No.
So I don't know. I do like that theory. And obviously the Chromicon staying back with Malik, it's cheating. Both sides left the timeline. You can't leave somebody back to fuck things up. So the repercussions of that will be really interesting. Because they could, in theory, still screw with the timeline now, and S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't there to prevent it. I guess Enoch technically is, but he's not really abreast of what's going on. He's obviously working doubles at the Crazy Canoe. Right.
Well, I mean, look, you got to make a living. You got to pay the bills somehow.
You can pick up the hours. I'd do it.
I don't know. The only question I think that we both have now is where in the fuck is Fitz?
Oh my god, dude! They didn't even mention him this episode. I need my Decastiker.
And maybe Trend Pick can shed some light on this, but was he in like a contract dispute with them, or like is there something outside of the show and his character that we're missing or that we don't know about, and that's why they kind of wrote him out of this last season?
I mean, they have been using him in the past few seasons as sort of their ace in the hole, and it makes his inevitable appearance that much more impactful. But I just love his character so much, like having to go without him for a third or half of the season. I mean, this is the last season. We're now going to be a third of the way through, more than that, and I haven't had my Fitz yet. It's a little. Yeah. I'm like, come on, dude. I understand he can't be with the team, but can we? I don't know. Find some way to incorporate him into it.
I feel like it's coming. I don't know if it's next episode. Again, we don't watch the coming up on, so we don't know. Honestly. But could we get next episode or maybe the episode after that 100% just Fitz, and we see what he was doing in the 30s through the 50s and onward, where he gets an entire episode dedicated to just him, and that would kind of make up for it, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, and that does kind of feel like an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. move to try and they'll hit the ground running, try and make up for lost time with a fan favorite character.
Especially with only 13 episodes in a season, I think they would be willing to sacrifice more of the overall arc to get us up to speed on what fits a integral part of the original team when the show started. Turned love interest, turned badass, turned everything that he has turned into. The show can't end without him.
I will say this. They are doing a really good job of spreading the ball around because if you think about it, the previous couple seasons, Daisy was really the headline, and then we obviously had Fitz with everything with Agents of Hydra and all the stuff with the framework. So it is kind of cool to see this so far sort of feels like it's sort of Max season, and then obviously we're back on Coulson a little bit, but it is nice that
and I feel like in a weird way they are kind of relying on building that relationship between Mac and Deke, which in a weird way is working. They're almost like a big brother, little brother kind of thing, but also like mentor mentee. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something there. I don't know what it is, but there's something there, which it's weird because I hate both of those characters, but they're tickling my balls with it, and I can't help but wonder and be excited for it.
I have two more things. One is partly question / theory.
Let's hear
First
it.
off, Yo-Yo and Deke having that whole conversation about the social statuses of both minorities and women, and I kind of got the feeling they're going to do something fucking crazy in one of these timelines to really mess up, like not mess up because it would be like righting a social wrong, but they're going to do something to change the course of history. Like not even really involving Shield. I feel like the course of like the United States or something involved with race relations or women's rights.
I agree. I think that the only thing that might be holding them back is the network and the platform that it is distributed on.
Yeah.
But I think that Marvel and Marvel Studios and everybody that goes into this show, they aren't shy from backing down. And even this season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they've proven that they aren't shy and they're not afraid to go down those roads and explore those, kind of controversial aspects, especially what's going on in recent weeks within, the world society.
Which it's kind of crazy now that obviously this stuff was filmed like a year ago, that it's this relevant.
They can time travel, Jeff. You know that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, obviously, are you watching the same show I am?
I did, sometimes this stuff goes over my head, so I'm glad that you're here to bring me back down to earth. All right, I have one more thing, and then obviously anything you have. So I'm going to name, now that we're in the 70s, I'm going to name 4 characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Again, This is the character, not specifically the actor, because it is the 70s. And you tell me whether we think they'll appear. Obviously, most of these people would have to be played by someone else, or if they'll be mentioned. What do you think? Okay. First one is Hank Pym.
Mentioned, won't appear.
Okay.
They can't make him appear because they would have to they've already shown him
in the 70s.
In the 70s, so they would have to de-age him. I don't think the money is there, nor could you get Michael Douglas to do that.
For sure. Sort of piggybacking off of that, Janet Van Dyne.
Yes, I think we will see her as a different actress. Almost a side mission, maybe. I think we'll see her. Okay. Well, no, that happened in the 60s. Now, we won't see her, right? Because the Cuban Missile Crisis thing was when she went into the quantum realm, and that was in the 60s, right?
Oh, was that when it was? Okay, then maybe she'll be mentioned in, like, man, we just lost, like, a S.H.I.E.L.D. member.
Yeah, mentioned I can definitely see.
How about Pierce, Alexander Pierce?
I want to say yes.
I think we'll actually see him.
I feel like we have to. Now, let me go back to Janet Van Dyne. We might see her because we don't know what the Chromicon has done with the time.
That is true.
So maybe the Cuban Missile Crisis didn't happen, or it did and she couldn't stop it. I don't know.
Interesting. Last one I have, Nick Fury.
I don't think so.
A younger Nick Fury?
No, not in the 70s. I think if we were in the 80s, for sure. But I don't think in the 70s.
And then last one, do you think we will see at all the base that they go to and we talked about this last episode, but the base that they go to in Endgame where Zola's working and Howard and where the Tesseract is?
I feel like they have to. I feel like that's just a super, super natural place for them to end up. It's a giant S.H.I.E.L.D. base disguised under an army base. It's where it all started. Again, it's just a perfect cookie crumb to get us back connected to the movies and in parallel with that time frame and what is happening there.
And dude, they could easily explain it like it could be like the week before Tony and Cap teleport to or time.
It doesn't even have to be the same year. I mean,
you could be like, oh, the Tesseract's being shipped here next week or something.
Yeah, and you'd be like, some sort of drop that we know that's where they're at. If it's not super obvious,
And dude, maybe we could even get, because James D'Arcy showed back up for Endgame. Maybe we could even get Jarvis to show up or something. He's like bringing something in for Howard or something.
Yeah, which again, you could totally. I would buy it 100%. That'd be awesome.
All right, that's all I had.
Yeah,
Anything
that's pretty much all I had. I mean, again, I just can't emphasize how well done this episode was. The black and white worked. The 50s with Coulson narrating worked. The way that it was a noir, but yet still had a really strong Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. feel to it. They just molded all these different things together. Dare I say, an almost perfect episode. Honestly, probably a top 5 episode, if not better, of the series.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to do when you're talking about a show that's been on for 7 seasons.
When we talk about a show that's had the Fall of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ghost Rider, Fear and Loathing on Planet Kitson, and some awesome season finales, this one just quite simply worked. Everything it did worked, and it didn't even have any like huge action set piece or any any crazy revelation. I just think they took the pieces they had and the characters they had, and they just crafted an incredible episode of television that was super fun.
Yeah. I again have to eat my words. I am back in. I am ready for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like I don't want this to be the final season anymore. And I've wanted that for 2.5 seasons now.
And the cool thing about this, I feel like each week, especially the ones where they time jump, it's like we almost get a whole new show next week with the characters.
It's a ton of fun.
All right. For the Mad Scientist Brian Banner, I'm the Mayor Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to us. Check out all of our reviews of this final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We'll be here every week. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If you just type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words, you'll find us there. Follow us on Twitter at Bro4Squad, and check out our website, bro4squad.com. Till next time, Banner and I have to go to the Crazy Canoe. I think they have 2-for-1 shots, but they're Fireball.
I heard half-price apps too, but I don't know.
When's karaoke night?
Thursdays.
Fuck.